over the weekend, of course, a big job has become available in Scotland, Sam.
Rangers,
yes.
That'll be interesting.
Well, let me tell you, there's absolutely zero chance.
I was not going to ask you, Mick, yes.
They were different class, Sam. And Manchester City may well have been under par. Give Wolves credit for that.
It was the most shocking sacking in football for a long time.
Those three last year were tactical geniuses. Suddenly, they're all numpties and can't coach. And
so then if that ball hits your hand, it's a penalty.
Well,
that's a natural position. That's your natural position.
Welcome back to another episode of No Tippy Tappy Football, brought to you by William Hill. Hi Sam, how are you?
Hi Nat, how are you? See you again, as always.
As always, yes, and it's been a juicy weekend of football. So
a juicy
weekend.
That's a good one. All right.
So I'm looking forward to talking about everything.
Everything, yes.
It's been going on.
There is some juicy subjects.
There is, yes. And we've got a juicy guest to join us.
We have a juicy guest. See, you two have been working together this weekend, I found out anyway.
We have.
But obviously it's my pleasure to have Mick McCarthy as my guest today on my podcast, and it's a pleasure to see him. We go back a long way, similar careers, I'd say, playing and managing. I'm not sure either of us have give up really yet, and but we're looking forward to today's chat. So Mick, thanks very much.
Sam, good to see you, mate. It's a pleasure.
Today it will be.
I think the football world hopes that you both will never stop being involved in football. It would not be the same if we didn't have Sam Allardyce and Mick McCarthy involved in football.
Well, I was described as special on Saturday and juicy on Monday. So things are looking up for me, let me tell you.
So, how are you, Mick? What is life like now? Of course, your last job was Blackpool.
Yeah.
So, what are you doing now? Are you having some quiet, relaxing time?
I am, yeah. I'm playing plenty of golf. I'm not getting any better. I'm spending a fair bit of time. My granddaughter, Fanula, she meets me on a morning, comes to GBC, as she calls it, Grandad's Breakfast Club.
Brilliant.
And I walk her to school and pick her up when I'm, obviously not this morning, so I'm doing a bit of that. And yeah, I'm kind of enjoying it, but I watch a lot of football. And there's certain aspects of it that I miss, and there's others that I don't.
That sounds nice, doesn't it, Sam?
Yeah, I mean, it as we see the years tick by, and they tick by far too fast now. Like I mean, and we look at the game, and probably when we sit there going, sometimes, honestly, we think that, and we look at and we think to ourselves, well, I could do a better job than that. Like I mean, but it crosses your mind when you've done it so long. You've done it for so long, and you know the game inside out. But I'm interested in talking to Mick about the one of the biggest changes in the game for me as a manager. You are no longer a manager. You are now only a head coach. So managing is not the job anymore. And it's difficult to adjust, or I found it difficult to adjust to that in the last few years, about the fact that your position at the club is head coach. So you're not responsible for all what we used to be responsible for, that we wanted to be responsible for, but is now been taken out of our hands. So I'd be interested in what Mick thinks about that.
Well,
would you agree first?
Yeah, well, I just say about going back to doing what we're doing as well, just on that. We're all being very selfish in our lives, I think, even as a player. I rang Fiona when she was in hospital. She'd just given birth, and I'm saying we're signing for Celtic, love, so you're going to have to get yourself up to Glasgow at some stage. So, that's okay. And then as a manager, I'm going to Sunderland, I'm going to Wolves, I'm going to Ipswich, I'm going out to Applewell, I'm going to Cardiff. So I'm enjoying a little bit of home time. I'm driving Fiona mad and she wants me out of the house, but anyway, I'm enjoying the grandchildren. In answer to your question, in terms of, I would say that you are, because you're that kind of a guy, you're good at managing people.
Yes.
And when they put a director of football or somebody else to do that job, to manage the players, so they go to somebody else to talk about contracts, talk about their welfare, talk about anything they want to talk about, and don't include us, I think that makes it really difficult for us, because I think I'll speak of myself, I was probably more of a manager. I had Taff with me, who was a coach, first team coach, and we both did the coaching. And I wouldn't have been sat here having done what I've done, but for Taff, because he was fabulous.
Yes.
Ian Evans. And same with TC.
Yeah.
TC was a great help to me, Terry Connor. And they did the coaching as well as I did the coaching, but the management of players was left to me and all the things that went on. And I think that helped us to have our success, because I think, if anything, I was decent at managing the players and the things that they had to do.
I totally agree. I think that and we talk about man management all the time in leadership conferences. And I've always thought about, what are you or what do you want to be? Well, you have to find out yourself, like you mean. So I ended up being a little bit like Mick. I ended up manager coach. So when I started, I was everything. When I got the first job, our chief scout, our physio, our manager, our coach, you just don't stop. You act like, somebody needs to calm you down. You're at it that much because you want to succeed that much. But as time goes on and as you learn and as you listen, if you do listen, then you listen to other people. For me, it was always about finding out where your strength is. And other people I chose to work with were the ones that told me. So I listened to them. When you say, well, you learn off them. If you get really good staff, Mick goes on about his assistant, how important he is to him. Like, you take him with you. I learned off them, so I ended up being a manager coach.
In terms of, obviously, we often ask you about your phone ringing, Sam. For yourself, Mick, were you hoping, do you want to get back into the game one day?
Yes, I do. Yeah, I've not given up on that. No chance. I'm not retired. If I said that, I think my wife Fiona would be. We'd be having a serious chat, let's put it that way. I always say to her, absence makes me think she's blonder, and it's suited us when we've lived away, and it's great because we come back, and I was up in Sunderland and my wife was looking after the kids, and she'd come and see me up in Wolverhampton. We had a house there, but it's really been. It's been a part of our life where we've spent time away from each other.
Can't do without some, no, can we, Mick? No.
Oh, not at
all.
No.
I mean, we were there, without what?
I know, give a hat. Can't live with them.
Though, isn't it?
Can't live with them, can't live without them.
The internet will be very happy to hear that as well, Mick, because if you're not linked with any jobs again in the future, then we all will not get to enjoy the Careless Whisper video that goes around every time you are linked to a job. Do you know the video? Have you seen it?
Oh yes, I've seen that, and I've seen the Scared of Nothing as well. That one, but the Careless Whisper, because she sat at the dugout, and I think I'd had my ankle operated, and I got the boot on at the time and crutches. I nearly took the linesman's head off with a crutch pointing at something. But they always they get you, don't they? The cameras come to you before the game,
of course they do, yeah.
And like every time you sort of be trying to ignore them, you concentrate on the game, and then you might smile at him, give him a wave, and then you get a bit cheesed with it, don't you? And so when he came this time, he's walking up to me really slowly. I give him the eyes.
You gave him the eyes as well. Yes, I think we can imagine how yours and Fiona's relationship started when we see you giving the cameraman the eyes on that, Mick.
Oh yeah, well, that's.
Well, we love it. The internet loves it. Where would we be without these characters and the fun of the game? So yes.
Well, that is a big part of it, isn't it? You're not trying to be that way, though. You'll have been caught doing something and saying something, and you're not trying to entertain people. Sometimes it's because people are brassing you off. The camera's coming up to you, it's like that, and either smile or wave. And anyway, it is what it is.
It's relentless when you're in there. You know what I mean? You got to learn to deal with the pressure. Pressure's immense, but it's what you love doing. But it is 24/7, even more so now. So you've got to just learn to live with it. If you've got to try and be aware more than ever before about what you say and what you do, and not make the wrong mistake, because it's more costly now than ever before, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Just
one mistake now could be innocent word or action, could be now very, very consequential.
Unfortunately, Sam, though, as well, it's things that have been, as you're growing up, that's what has been said, that's what's been happening. And then we all sort of need educated in what is right and wrong going forward.
Yeah.
and actually learning what you can say and what you can't say, because it's far more difficult than it's ever been. And probably right and fair that that's the case, because then people don't get persecuted from anything else.
I didn't expect, so on this podcast last season, Mick, every week we'd come on and I'd say to Sam, oh, there's another job coming, is your phone rung? And we'd talk about it. And I didn't expect to be doing it this early in the season, but over the weekend, of course, a big job has become available in Scotland, Sam.
Rangers,
yes.
That'd be interesting.
Well, let me tell you, there's absolutely zero chance.
I was not going to ask you, Mick,
So,
yes.
Let me just clear something up before you come with a question.
Yes. Your Celtic allegiances there would not even allow you to, yes. No interest. How about you, Sam? Is that a job?
Even the blue mic, I'm a bit insulted with. It's sort of like a grey one.
I'm that way with red, so I get it. What do you think?
I don't know. It's just it would be if they came and asked me and they talked to me. I mean, it'd be an honour at Rangers, wouldn't it? You know what I mean? Football club the size of it. You know, speaking to Alex McLeish and Fergie about it, like, I mean, it's just unbelievable football club, like, I mean, so not that I'm actively promoting myself for the job, but clearly it's not gone well as I mean, he's only been in the job 2 minutes, isn't he? They're both from QPR.
But Michael Beale, when he was at Rangers with Steven Gerrard, and of course he goes down to Villa with Steven Gerrard, and if you read any comics, he was lauded for his coaching skills, and then he got to QPR and he did really well, didn't he? And he's amazing, but you see that sometimes when they go from one club to another club and end up back at the club that they left in the first place. But you've got to beat Celtic, and they won the treble last year. And if you don't beat Celtic, I mean,
or you can't afford to lose to Aberdeen.
Well, absolutely. What I was going to say to you, the answer that you're looking for was yes. Anyway, when they said, "Will you take it?" But you've got to go win. There's being second and losing to Aberdeen, then you're finished. You're going to go.
It's a huge, huge club, and for them to be sitting third in the table at this point is just probably a right shock to their.
Well, the big thing, like everything else, no matter how good we are, and your players will determined on how much you could win, and you can help them improve their overall performance by a small percentage. And if you get that, you can't get any more than that, really. So that might be the difference, and I'm making them better. But the overall talent of the squad is the most important thing for you as a manager to start with. Because my life, when it comes to saving, I only saved football clubs when I bought or loaned 4 or 5 players in January. Mm-hmm. I get in there and I'd hit the recruitment system like the biggest bang you'd ever seen in your life. Because my sell was, here I am, I need your help, this is the owners. When it comes to January, I'm going to need you, you need to be there. You can tell me this squad is good enough. It's not good enough because it wouldn't be where you are if it was, in my opinion. So I'll look at it, I'll do it, and we'll see, and we'll try and find out how many we need. So every time we've done 3 or 4, whether it be, well, obviously it was a bit too much for us at West Brom with the pandemic, but the fact that we got the players at Sunderland, we got the players at Crystal Palace, we got probably the only place we didn't need him was probably Everton. We sort of got them out of trouble with at the drop of a hat. Me and Sammy Lee, Big Dunk, all the lads that came with me. So, that was one of the easier times when they were in the bottom 4 that we got them to 8th. And I mean, it's just a bit of a miracle, but we got there, you know what I mean? But the others getting them out of trouble, Blackburn Rovers, it was hugely difficult taking over. But only when we got the players in January did the results become... Because what you have to do is you have to become a top half table team to survive. So your points total in the last 18 games from the end of... Or the last 16 games from the end of January. If you put that 16 games in a league, you have to be in the top half to survive. So you have to be a top half team. You have to be a top 8 or a top 10 team to actually survive relegation at that point. And if you put that to the players and you go, here we are, this is what we've got to do. This is how we're going to try and do it. Then you put in the mind that it's going to go and we're going to turn it around and go the right way. And that's why we've ended up surviving because what happened to the players that are already there is they look at the players that come in and go, we've got a chance now because they're better than what we've got. They understand the better than what you've got, and they go and they feel better about that. So they start playing better.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
You got me really thinking there.
So January becomes the hardest month
of
the season, and you hit the recruitment lads, and you hit the owner, and you're constant pecking. He's moaning again. Listen, he won't leave me alone. You know what I mean? He won't. But you push them beyond the limit. Sometimes they turn around and tell you it's off. But you've got to understand that you've employed me as the expert. That's what I need. I understand you can't get me everything, but let's do as much as we possibly can.
Sam, you just said something there about they've employed you as the expert, and pretty much I have. I've not been interfered with in terms of signing players, but I think they are now.
Yeah, absolutely. Right.
Directors of football or whatever title you want to put on them dictate what players they're going to get. Not the manager comes in, coach comes in, says whatever time of the season. Well, the two windows, obviously. I want this fella, that fella, and that fella. They can always tell you why you can't have him, you can't have him, you can't have him. We actually like to have this, that, and the next one, maybe on money. But even sometimes it's on ability. That I'll listen to some coaches and managers say to me, oh, no, I couldn't have him. For whatever reason, because somebody else fancies somebody even more. When actually, you were managing them, you were coaching them, I was, and I was allowed to. The only reason I couldn't get players was if we couldn't afford them. But nobody ever questioned whether I was doing it on their ability or what they were good.
Big Dunk had that. I'm not sure I should talk about that, about Big Dunk, but maybe it should be. Forest Green employed a director of football. It's probably the reason why Big Dunk left.
Maybe, yeah.
Because he couldn't get the people he wanted, the new.
You worked with
wouldn't give him.
You worked with a chairman, didn't you?
Directly,
and a secretary. Yeah. And it would have been finance that stopped you getting players, not your decision on what their players were like, their ability, or what they could bring to your team. So that's all right. But if you're getting told because somebody else actually doesn't think that player can play, well, they question your judgment.
True.
You've got me thinking about Manchester United, which I don't often like to do, to be honest. Although I don't mind it when we're talking about them having the worst start that they've had in 34 years.
That won't keep you awake at night, will it?
Oh, no, Mick, not at all. In terms of what you're talking about the manager, directors of footballs, the owners, all the different people involved in a club. In terms of Manchester United, at this point, with this worst start in 34 years, is that Ten Hag's fault? Because he's brought in a few players now, or do you think it's still coming from the Glazers, from the top, from the problems that they've got filtering down?
Well, there is somebody said to me when I took a job about a fish. They said it's like a fish, this club. I won't tell you which it was. They said it rots from the head down. And I've always thought about that. I'm not going to tell you who it was and what club it was, but you'd love to know now. And I thought, because they were blaming the hierarchy for the demise of the club that I took over. Yeah. And it's there all the time. The fans are complaining about it, they're demonstrating about it. But I don't think, Sam, you can allow that to stop players playing how they should play when it's the level that they're at. We're talking about top clubs here, we're talking about one of the best clubs in the world. And the players that signed then equally should be the same. But everything seems to be played out in the media, whether it's Ronaldo, whether it's Sancho, whether it's the guy who was just he was arrested, and another one that
Anthony.
Well, there's another one, and
Greenwood.
We carry on. I feel so sorry for Ten Hag. I thought he was amazing when they went to Brentford and they lost, and then he went with that run on them, and that sort of.
He sorted out Ronaldo.
Yeah, and he sorted out Ronaldo, which I thought it needed.
This was the biggest decision of his life.
Absolutely, but it was the right one, I think, as well. Probably. And then he sorted and did a really good season and won the cup, one of the cups, one of the trophies they won. And then this year, it's come back again. It started again with all the problems. And it's played out in the media because it's one of the biggest clubs in the world. And I feel sorry for him. But there is that thing, if you want to nail people and then they go on saying it, you've got to nail everybody the same way. And I really feel for him because I thought he sorted some really difficult subjects out. but it's just played out the whole world. I looked this morning, it was just a litany of stories about Ten Hag and players. I feels for him.
Well, I mean, it's the hard line. The hard line is harder to take now than ever before.
Yeah.
You know, the hard line that we grew up with would be deemed as bullying. So the managers would be in serious trouble today if we went to HR and said the manager's bullying me. That would be a fact. You know what I mean? So the hard line is less than ever before. So you have to understand as you go along about how you have to. It's not that you don't use it, but you just use it far less than you would ever use it, and you try and use a different method to a point where you can't let it go on. So his hard line has continued, and the effect of the hard line has been the opposite of the previous manager for me, who was a bit more softer, a bit less disciplined, would let them get away with a bit more. And it looks like that different attitude has hit the players and they've towed the line. And now, is that hard line now too much for them to take? Because I remember Chelsea with Antonio Conte. The players couldn't cope with his disciplined hard line in the end.
Well, you know, Sam, they'll tolerate it for once. And if most of the squad feel like a player needs a bit of a hard line, a bit of discipline, a bit of tough love, they all recognise that. But then the longer it goes on and the more it goes on, they start to feel for that player and think, that could be me next. And that causes, dissent within the group. And I'm not saying that's the reason they're having bad results, but it does happen because I've seen it happen. It happened when I was playing. If one of them was being, a couple of players are being bombed out, we all start going, what have they been bombed out for? What have they done wrong? And you never get any answer from the hierarchy what's done. It's just because they didn't want to do it. And when you said about HR, you used to be HR as well, didn't you? So was I. I used to send it to HR. It was me in a different office.
Me, yeah.
But I really feel for him because it is one of the biggest clubs in the world, and every little story is being packed. It's making it harder and harder for Ten Hag now.
Huge.
And more where, they're now tipping him to be getting sacked. So.
Yeah, disaster. Ferg used to say, you lose 2 games on the trot, it's an absolute disaster, Sam, at this football club. But I mean, at the end of the day, I've talked about this before at Man U. Until they get, like every football club, until you get your recruitment right.
Yeah.
You're recruiting for Manchester United. It's a special level. So you need expertise in every area of recruitment. And today that's not just scouting the world physically, but technically now with AI and stuff like that, analysis and things. You have to put all that together to get the right blend and pick the right players for Manchester United, and of course the manager at the moment and how he wants to play. They should be how he wants to play is important for how Manchester United recruit. But it's a long time that Manchester United don't have.
Yeah, but players, Sam, that sign for Manchester City, for Liverpool, for Manchester United, for Arsenal, they've won the lottery. And I'm not on about financially. I'm on about playing for the best clubs in the country, or in the world, in some of them, certainly, around Europe, whatever you want to put on it. But they are. Yeah. And what would upset you? The only thing that upsets you is not playing.
Not playing, yeah.
And that doesn't matter where that is. Yeah. I left Lyon because I loved it in Lyon. It was wonderful, but I wasn't playing. I wanted to go and play. I was 30. I needed to play.
Now, Mick and I had the pleasure of spending Saturday together at work. Yes. And I had mentioned to Mick, you're on the podcast next week. And Mick said to me, what do we talk about? And I said, well, hopefully something will happen this weekend and we'll talk about that. And then something did happen this weekend that everybody's been talking about non-stop. So I don't really want to talk about the offside because I think we're all agreed that he was not offside. He was onside. It should have been a goal. I think we're all agreed about that. We don't even need to go into it. But there is different offshoots of this story. This story continues to grow. And what's come out now is that Darren England and Dan Cook, who were on VAR for the Liverpool-Tottenham game, had travelled to the UAE and officiated a game on the Thursday night. And
UAE?
And travelled back on the Friday and then worked VAR on the Saturday.
So why did they go to UAE?
They were refereeing a league game out there on a Thursday. Why is the question?
It's not our responsibility for UAE refereeing.
And they say, have they not got any good referees? So why were they implying those two after Saturday's decision?
Yeah, but why is Howard letting them go?
No, that is the question. Why is the Premier League letting our referees go?
Sorry, no, they were VAR. They were officiating on the VAR.
They were VAR on the Saturday.
Well, they were jet lagged
on the Thursday.
Definitely jet lagged on Saturday. I felt for Simon Hooper on Saturday because I like Simon. I think he's a good referee, and it just that one. He sort of gets the blame for it. It's not his fault. And some of the other decisions he had, I thought he got them right. I was surprised at some of the comments they made at him.
It's a big problem for Howard, isn't it? Because he's supposed to be Howard Webb's come back to take control, and he's obviously find it a little bit more difficult than he's probably expected now. Like, I mean, because the spotlight's always going to, it's like us as managers, it's always going to shine on you. Yeah, when you're in control.
They're always the baddies in the movie, though, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, so
I feel for them that way.
Yeah.
I think the annoying thing, I think, why perhaps people are even more annoyed about it is because, like you mentioned before, Sam, you didn't see the lines, and I think with offside, we're all happy that if they draw a line, he's offside or he's onside. You know,
it's the
if
easiest one to get right or wrong.
Yeah, it's kind of not subjective when there's a line.
Lee Mason retired after he did the same.
What?
I mean, they retired Lee Mason to Stockley Park only, and he accepted that. But then he made the bad when he didn't draw the line, and disallowed a goal or the other way, whichever way it was, he got it wrong, and he retired after that.
I want to hear what they were saying, though. You know, like when you watch a rugby game and you can hear. Do you think we should be able to hear what the VAR official is saying to the on-pitch officials?
Seriously, I think they had makeup on and red noses and clown faces on Saturday. I don't know what they were saying. No, I would. Well, I'm pretty unforgiving when people do things to me. My wife tells me I should be a bit less, But anyway. Sam, come on, what would you be thinking if you come away from that, you're Jurgen Klopp on Saturday? I would never forgive them two. I would be fuming, and I'd still be fuming, and I'd be fuming for the rest of the season. If I ever see him, I'd be giving it to him, because that was an easy decision. We got me back at the offside, but it was an easy decision. Everybody put the lines in. His onside should be a goal. Why? So let's listen.
Not even nearly, is he?
Let's listen to their discussion. That'd be interesting, wouldn't it?
There's massive pressure they're under, and I'm sure that some of the referees don't like it, and some of the referees who are that bit younger will accept it and grow up with it. The older ones won't like it. The older ones would want to leave the decision to them.
Yeah.
But that's not going to happen, and they have to adapt as they go on. When they get laboured with, the handball's changed again.
Yeah.
I mean, just the handball rule in the last 3 or 4 years, and I look at the game and I go, what are you doing to the game? All these numpties, wherever they are, saying this will be better for the game. If it hits their hand and it doesn't score a goal, then it's not intentional. If it does hit their hand and then they score a goal, it has to be disallowed. The rule used to be, is it intentional? It's a penalty. If it's not intentional, it's not. Yeah. Or it's not a foul. Why have they complicated to handballs? Is it up here? Is it down there? Is it down? So there's nothing taken into consideration about if I'm jumping. Now, I can't jump like this. I can't jump with me. I've got to jump like that. Now, to get the elevation to go up near the ball, which is my job, I've got a mixed job. We've got to jump and we got to go. So then if that ball hits your hand, it's a penalty. That's a natural position. Yeah. That's your natural position. And that's what they don't understand. Is natural. Yeah. You get all defenders doing this now. And you go, what's going on? Like, you mean?
You'd have to sew the sleeves up for us, Sam. They'd have to play.
So that's if it hits the sleeve, it's not the arm. But what if you,
It's almost getting to the point that if it hits your hand, at any point, it's a penalty. And then you'll see one that's here, and it's not a penalty. I mean, it does drive me mad, that rule, I have to be honest.
I think what I'm so sad about, or it's a shame from the weekend as well, is it was such a good goal as well. It was such a good assist from Salah, and it was such a good finish that we're not going to get to see that.
And of course, they lost the game in the last minute, which makes it even more painful.
Yes. But the idea that...
Have you got them in your team? Is that where you're so sad?
No, they weren't in my fantasy football team, actually. We had a lot of fantasy football discussion on Saturday.
Yeah.
So since that has happened, we all accepted they should have had a goal. Although that just because they should have had a goal doesn't mean they then would have gone on to win the game, which frustrates me. People say they were robbed of victory. It was a goal. However, what's happened since then is Liverpool have now released a statement. I feel like everybody was on Liverpool's side. Yes, it should have been a goal. Liverpool have now released a statement in which they've used the words saying they will explore all options. What does that even mean?
There's no options to explore, is there?
It's put out. I think that's for the fan base, isn't it? Because they can explore all options they want. Nothing's going to happen.
Going to change that,
they could do. But I suppose they have to say something that come on, how many times have decisions gone against people? And there's nothing you can do. The game's finished. They're not going to replay the game. That's the only way it could happen. It's not going to happen. And that would be ridiculous if it did, because then there'd be replaying games everywhere. You've got to accept the decisions, and it's as tough as it might be, and you've been against them. I said it sometimes. I've felt, wow, and I've found it hard to forgive them, but that's what it is. That's football, and you get some for and you get some against you.
But are Liverpool helping the situation by implying? Zach's statement said they're questioning the sporting integrity of it.
It's a knee-jerk reaction into it. They're so upset about it, and like I mean, and they can get more press than anybody else. If the top boys, they can use that tool. If they would like, you mean, but obviously the benefit is, how long is it going to take to get right? It's not going to be scrapped. We have to accept that, but somebody has to stand up and say, we've got to identify. Is it 3 years we've had it now, or 4?
I can't remember.
We've got to have it.
I remember a time without.
We've got to have a set established criteria that this is the way we run VAR.
Yeah.
But we're talking about things that's been on for years.
Yeah.
So Jeff Hurst might only have 2 goals if VAR had been involved, or he might, he's given. That's been going on since 1966 and before that, and we're still talking about it despite all the technology that we've got in the game. Yeah. And it's the VAR that has let Simon Hooper down, because he's getting the pelters for it. I'm sure the other 2 guys the guys who did VAR. Yeah. But you know what? We should be talking about something else rather than that.
That's enough now,
unfortunately.
I know, it is a shame. It is a shame.
It is,
and
I
think I agree. I think every fan,
so many good games.
Would say
Aston Villa.
Yeah.
I mean, wow! Come on, they're just spank Brighton like.
What about Brighton? Brighton are either they go and spank somebody. And then they get,
Man United.
Yeah, and then Everton did them. Was it 6 at the end of last season? They were beating everybody.
Please excuse me, I just want to stop this episode quickly because Big Sam and I just want to say a huge thank you to you for supporting No Tippy Tappy Football, whether you are listening or watching or doing both. Sam and I absolutely love doing this podcast, and we couldn't do it without you. So take a second, please, and subscribe or follow wherever you are watching or listening to us. We're also on Twitter, No Tippy Tappy Football, and we have our own YouTube channel. I know everybody says it, but it really would mean a lot to us, and it means that we can keep getting bigger and better guests the more followers and the more subscribers we have. And then you can go and tell all your mates that you've done Big Sam a favour. So thank you for listening. Come on, let's talk about Wolves. Come on.
Yeah.
Come on, it's
They're
time.
my club, Wolves, by the way.
Come on. Why?
Yeah, I was born in Dudley.
Were you?
I was a Wolves fan. I was a North Bank boy.
All right, we've got 2 Wolves fans with us
I
today
was a
then.
Wolves fan, yeah.
You were very impressed with them, weren't you?
Oh, they were excellent. And because, well, interestingly enough, it was a bit like, be careful, don't go too heavy on the City lads after the game, because it's a fans forum, And I said, well, thanks for the heads up, but I was never doing that. I'm going to praise Wolverhampton. They were different class, Sam. And you'd appreciate this because you've had teams like I've had teams. I've never had one like Manchester City.
Neither have I.
And I've had one like Wolves where we've had to go, right, we'll have 5 at the back, you come in here, we'll make it 4 and 1 there, and we'll make it narrow, and they won't let them play through the middle. And Dawson nailed Haaland, and the 2 full-backs dealt with the wide players, and they doubled up. And they were different class.
So,
And all right, so Manchester City may well have been under par. Give Wolves credit for that because they stopped them doing what they wanted to do. And then they had pace on the break and they scored 2 good goals. And actually, I thought in the end of it, they thoroughly deserved
it, yeah.
their victory. And, you know, they were terrific. And I thought, you know, I know I played for Manchester City and I managed Wolves and so torn in between. So I whichever result came up, I could be happy or sad.
Yeah.
They were brilliant, Sam. They were great at
Yeah.
Wolverhampton.
Yeah.
We've had
But there you go with the headlines again. There you go. Most of the headlines would be Man City have a bad day. No credit to Wolves. Not enough.
Yeah.
People
You know
want
what
to
I
see
mean?
each other bad day,
You know what
don't
I
they?
mean?
Yeah.
It's not that you've been tactically genius.
Yeah.
Gary O'Neill was tactically genius. He did a masterclass in tactics.
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't be called that because he's Gary O'Neill down at Wolves. If it were Jose Mourinho at Chelsea or Jurgen Klopp, it was a masterclass of tactics that he managed to secure this victory. Like I mean, and I'm not. This is just the world we live in. Like I mean, it's just. And so you said sometimes weren't you lucky today? Like you know, and you go, you got Man United or Liverpool or Arsenal. You got them on an off day. No, we were just better than them today by our tactics, by the way we nullified their strengths and exposed their weaknesses. And
You said something before,
you know,
Sam. Sorry to interrupt, but you said something before about the teams that may go down.
Yeah.
So Burnley,
yeah, the ones that
Sheffield
came up
United,
for the first
Luton,
time. Yeah.
right? So those 3 last year were tactical geniuses and brilliant managers and great coaches.
Yeah.
7 games in, they're all being talked about like, well, could Burnley keep playing the same way? And then Luton win, of course, they're going to win at Everton. But prior to that, and Sheffield get done, was it 8?
Yeah.
Poor old Eki, he's different class. He's a really good coach. He got Sheffield United promoted. Suddenly, they're all numpties and can't coach, and it's ridiculous.
But you know what they have to face, Mick, that we didn't?
Social media and everything else. Yeah.
You've got to play the right way. Why do you think I called this No Tippy Tappy Football?
No Tippy Tappy Football.
Because I remember speaking to you when you were at Cardiff, and I think you played, was it All or somebody like that? And all had something like, I don't know, let me end it, 500 odd passes, and you had 150 passes, and you said, but we won 3-0.
Oh, it was Derby.
Derby, that's
at
right,
home.
yeah. But it was Liam Rossini, wasn't it?
Liam Rossini, yeah.
And now he's at Hull City, isn't he? Like, because he's like,
Oh, yeah.
it has to be roll out to the centre halves, no matter what.
And they're doing well at it. But
they're doing very well at it, yeah. But I mean, isn't the only way to play. I mean, if it's going to carry on the way it's going to be, now football's going to be so boring that.
But they were doing it to us, and they'd had something like 40 passes in the final third. But it was their final third. It was, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The final third that we were looking to get into.
So, yeah.
And they had 40, we nicked it off them and we scored.
Yeah.
And then they did something else. Then they had another one and we nicked it off them and scored. And I think we beat them 4-1 in the end, 4-1. And their possession stats were magnificent. But we actually won. And it was as Ada said, ours was a really good performance. We weren't backs to the wall. We were like on the halfway line and then pressing them. Is it high press, mid press, low press now? But, you know, we've been pressing teams for years. And so as soon as somebody makes a mistake, you're on them, you nick it, and we played really well. And that's what I was saying when we talk about no tippy-tappy football. Mm-hmm. Nobody was unhappy with the way we played that night. And yet we'd had probably 200 passes to like 450.
Yeah. But the pressure on young managers, what I'm saying is they have to play that way because of because of what's happened in the game of football, because what's happened in the press and what's happened in the social media. If you don't, I mean, I was named Long Ball Sam by all the media, which is a responsibility I should have nailed them for and got rid of it, because in the end, I would use those tactics when needed.
Yeah, I've had a bit of both. Sam.
You know, in the end, if my team were better than the opposition, I didn't use those tactics. But then that didn't matter. I was still long ball Sam, like I mean. So that was one of my biggest slip-ups.
A bit like we won the league at Sunderland with a really good football team, and we won the league at Wolves with a really good footballing team. But having been promoted into the Premier League, and I lasted, till February with Sunderland, having been given thrumpence to spend and all that. So you get up and we've won the league, and I'm a great manager, great coach. Suddenly I'm an idiot and I can't do it anymore. It's the players that you've got, of course, but the pressure is when you get up there and you're not as good as the others. Yeah. You try and out-football Manchester City. Wolves didn't do it, but they were brilliant. They let them have it until they come to a certain point and then stopped them playing. Great performance. And there's no tippy tappy. There's all ways to win a game, isn't there?
In the end, it's still all about winning. You keep your job as you win.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Never been sacked for winning games, you?
No, never. No, probably Everton.
Oh, yeah.
Probably right, Everton.
Oh, well, you got one up on me then. I was never sacked for winning games.
No. It could be but the old stigma at Everton came to haunt me, which got rid of me in the end. You know what I mean? About the way we played. We only played the way we played because of the quality of the players we had. Because over the years, I'm experienced enough and knowledgeable enough with me, Sammy Lee, Craig Shakespeare, people like that, like you mean, behind us, Big Dunk. This is what the players are capable of, and this is how we're going to set out on who we play against. So we never played the same way, but I think we lost 2 at home in the entire time I was there. But then that word in the press when they start niggling, and then it starts, the bubble starts getting bigger and bigger with it, like you mean, and in the end, the fan reaction is taken by your owners, and that was the reason I got mulleted, not by the amount of points we accumulated at Everton, but they just weren't brave enough to stick with us. Because if they'd stuck with us, I believe, I'd have had them in close to Europe. If we'd have gone down the right direction after that and stopped all this rushing into different players, different signings, new managers, more new players, more new coaches, the whole disruption at Everton has been like a churning. It's all like
it's not exactly gone wonderfully well since
for anybody.
To be fair, no.
And there you go. But I mean, at the end of the day, if we don't allow managers to coach the team for what they're capable of, and they all get criticised if they don't roll it out to the centre half in his own 18-yard box, which I find to be
that's only
really annoying.
So do I, but that's only because you and I would never have wanted it. No. And by the way, nobody would ever have given it to us.
That's true. You're right there. He's spot on there,
What's that?
Yeah. But lots of good defenders are being lost by the fact they can't play out.
Right, I've got a couple of listener questions for you both.
Okay.
So if you ever would like to ask a question on No Tippy Tappy Football, you can, best way is probably just to tweet me, which a couple of you have done this week. So Hans Petter Randen from Norway has asked...
Norway?
Wow. Norway listener,
is that
Sam?
The farthest question we've had since we started this podcast?
Oh, I think that is the farthest question we've had.
As far as Norway now.
Yes, if you listen to us from further away than Norway...
keep listening.
Yes.
Yeah.
Did he say Norway or Norway?
Well, he would like to know, do you think if Gary O'Neill can keep Wolves up?
Yes, yes, because he did it with Bournemouth. He did a great job at Bournemouth. Fabulous job he did there. And so quite clearly has a good rapport with the players, because you have to have when you're down there and you get beat. You've got to get them back. After they'd lost against Ipswich on Tuesday or Wednesday night in the cup, I was concerned, as I said beforehand in the game with you. Having seen them play on Saturday, absolutely they can keep them up. He's got good players in that squad, but it's all right doing it against Manchester City. Sometimes you get a team that can't play against the big clubs. Other times you get a team they get the big clubs coming and they get fired up for it, and then they've got Luton coming, Sheffield United coming, Burnley coming, and don't get the same level of performance. So they've got to replicate what they did against Manchester United, except they lost.
Yeah.
But they were brilliant on Saturday. If they can play like that system, Sam, he can keep them up. Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. And he's a good... I had him at West Ham with me as a player when I went there.
Good guy, isn't he?
Oh, wow.
And what really, really pleased about is Wolves employed him straight away. Saw what he'd done at Bournemouth, seeing how unfairly treated he was at Bournemouth. I mean, this was the most shocking sacking in football for a long time.
Shocking.
Right, I've got another question from Jack Walker, and he's asked, is Lucas Paqueta at West Ham the best player outside of the top 6 in the Premier League?
Oh, yeah, I'd say so. What I've seen him, he's fabulous.
Yeah.
And I hadn't seen him too much until this year. I watched him. Oh, he was awesome in the game.
I saw him first hand when I was at Leeds. So, yeah.
Very good.
Yeah.
Yes.
The two players that stood out were Declan Rice that day. And
the way he receives the ball, the way his movement, he glides around the pitch to his passing range is fabulous.
Swan City came in for, wasn't it?
Yeah. I don't know what happened in the summer, but City were linked with him.
Well, you try and buy a player off David Sullivan, man, you've got to hit the heights. Whatever value you've got on him, put another 20, 30 million on, you might have a chance. If not, you won't get him. That's right. David for you. I'm
looking at my watch, but there's so much more I want to talk to you about, so I'm going to try and whiz through a few of these. These aren't even quickfire, Sam, but I just want to know what you both think about it. We've had Steve Bruce as a guest, of course, former Manchester United player, former manager, and he's being linked with the Republic of Ireland job. So I would love to get your opinion on this, Mick, of obviously mounting pressure there, given the sort of state of the qualifying just now. What do you think? Stephen Kenny's the manager, the coach, but Stephen, he's had a tough time, and he's staying until the end of the campaign now. So there was all this furore at the last game that he's going to lose his job, and they're going to get somebody in. The FAI they've had a council meeting, as they do, and decided they're going to keep him on until probably because I think it's very, very difficult for them to qualify, almost impossible. So why have the change there? There's a lot of talk about, and I'll say Lee Carsley, he's had caretaker jobs at clubs at Birmingham, I think at Brentford. He's done wonderfully well with the 21s. Done a great job there. And he played for Ireland, of course. He was with me in the World Cup. He is a great lad, but it's all speculation. But Stephen Kenny's staying in the job until, as far as I'm concerned, until the end of the campaign, and then they'll decide. And why wouldn't there's an international? If it finishes in November, there's no games until February, March, so they have a long time to make a decision. So, but if Brucey was in for it, he's always a good shout for any.
But he's got an Irish connection, isn't he, with his grandparents.
Okay.
So
everyone's got an Irish connection.
Yeah, so I know Alex was trying to get a chance to play for Republic of Ireland. So big great job for Steve. He's got it.
Would either of you be interested in another international job?
I wouldn't mind.
Yes.
Depend on where, you know what I mean?
Yes, okay.
Said that a bit quick, didn't I?
Yeah, you did.
Like I'm desperate.
Definitely, yeah. What was it about an international job that you liked so much?
15 games a year. I hated it the first time I took it. I took it when I was 32.
Oh, that's young.
I was 32.
What did you do all that spare time?
No, sorry, I was 36. I was 36. And what did I do? Well, I watched loads of games, of course. Yeah. But every game I went to, I was jealous of the bloke down there doing the job. I was sat up watching it. Suddenly like a bit like a pundit, or just all you're doing is watching games. Yeah. So, I would. And then the second time round, when I was a little bit older, I quite enjoyed that 15 games a season. It was all right, yeah.
What country do you think might tickle your fancy?
I don't know. It's hard to tell, isn't it? Like, I mean, whatever pops up. I think the hardest part is to find out if it's another country outside the United Kingdom, is how good are the players you've got that you select from in whatever part of the world you are. Where do they lie in the rankings, like, I mean, because you don't want to go and be a failure, like, I mean, you want to go and make a difference, you know what I mean? Be it only 15 games a year or so. You need to know that wherever you are, you've got a chance of being successful for that particular country.
Well, Terry Connor, TC, is in Granada. Granada, tomato. Yeah. Granada. And it's tough for him, and he's gone in there, and he's a great coach, TC. But, then some players don't come because they're playing for first division clubs here, and they won't go to internationals because they might not get the place back when they come. Like you said, you've got to have a chance of winning, haven't you?
Yeah.
Right, I've got a few quick fire questions for you. Not too many this time. Apart from Pep or Klopp, which current Premier League manager do you admire the most?
Thomas Frank.
I think you'll say the same, yes. Lovely. Which of the 3 promoted teams has the best chance of staying up?
I'm going to say Burnley.
Okay.
And I'm going to say Luton because of the stadium, how it is, and
I get that, yeah.
And the players. It's not like, well, I mean, Burnley's been in the Premier League. Burnley's the best team without any doubt. I wonder if they just carry on playing and want to be the best against the best. I don't know. Rob's a good coach.
Very good, yeah.
A great lad.
Took over last year and didn't
Took over last year, and I'd love to see him stay up. So I'm going with him because I want him to see him stay up.
Well, nothing wrong with that.
Lovely.
Man, I'd like Eki to stay up and all. And I've no wrong with
I'd like Vincent Company, yes.
Let's get 3 others.
They might. I think at Luton, I think he might be more adaptable to change how he goes about every game to win it than perhaps the other 2. And that might be a reason. And playing at Luton, I mean, we've all played at Luton, haven't we?
Yes, we have.
I mean, especially if you're playing in the winter.
On AstroTurf.
In the winter and that, like, I mean, you're going, this doesn't excite you too much, you know what I mean?
So we went from talking about 3 promoted teams to a team that will be hoping to get promoted from the Championship. How highly do you both rate Ipswich boss Kieran McKenna?
Amazing. Job is done. He's from getting them promoted, and now they've 7 wins in the Championship. I mean, remarkable. And as I said, I don't know about Wolves, they came back from 2-0 down to win. They were 1-0 down on Saturday against Huddersfield and came back to get a draw. Plays great football. They're flying under him. Well, I said the Championship club, they had a really good budget in the First Division. They've got it in the Championship. But nevertheless, he's doing the coaching, he's doing the managing. Remarkable.
Is it the same owners that you had?
No,
it's different owners now.
American hedge fund, apparently.
Another one?
Yeah, apparently.
They're taking over, aren't they? That's becoming a very big trend, is about this grouping of football clubs across the world now. These hedge funders have all cottoned on to like buying 6, 7, 8 clubs up, which obviously Manchester City were more probably the biggest ones, but everybody else is the American hedge funders are following suit in it. Like, I mean, a bit worried about 777 buying Everton, according to all the background reports, if they're true. It looks like it, you know.
There was potential owners in the crowd, wasn't there? They panned to them.
Yeah, but all the stuff that's coming out about the clubs they own now has not been very good in terms of investment or the way they've looked after the football.
I don't know much about hedge funds, except that Simon Sadler, who owns Blackpool, runs a hedge fund, and he's a fantastic guy. And I sincerely hope he gets success with it, because lets the manager manage. He's really supportive. So that's the only thing I know about any hedge funds, but I'd really wish him well, because he's a great guy.
Right, and then the last question for today. We've got more internationals coming up because there's international breaks all over the show at the minute. Can you give me one outside pick that could make the England squad?
A player?
Yeah.
Bowen should be back in.
Okay.
West Ham. Starting again.
Yeah.
Assists and goals, outstanding. Yeah.
Well, without me jumping on the back of that, he's probably the best one I've seen playing for them. He should have given me a bit of time to think about that one.
Well, I tried to answer it first, so I'll give you a bit more time.
You knew the question was coming, obviously. Yeah, he's had it in his head, so he just dropped that one on me.
Yeah, we like to keep you working hard, yes.
Well, I'm going with Bourne because he's a great manager, Sam. He knows the best players to pick and all that, you know.
Oh, what a nice way to end.
And old Moisey started well this year as well.
Yes.
Pleased for him. Keep going, mate.
Thank you so much for joining us.
It's a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Mick.
Thanks, Sam. Great to see you, mate.
Thank you so much, Sam, as always. Have a lovely week. Safe travels back down.
Thank you.
Back down south again. And thank you so much for joining us for another episode of No Tippy Tappy Football, brought to you by William Hill. We won't be back with you next week because, of course, there is another international break, but we will be back the week after that, and we'll look forward to seeing you then.